Hey everyone, this is Villains of Man, and I'm JVD, bringing you another comic book review over Invincible Iron Man, The Search for Tony Stark. This is part of Volume 3 takes place after the 11-issue Riri Williams series, but you can consider this Volume 1 for all the old-time fans because Marvel has started at this time going back to legacy numbering, which this is 593 through 600. You will not see any low print numbering on these books. Like you seem to do with Marvel there in the early 2000s, when they kind of done some stuff like this, when they went back to a lot of heavy renumbering. This is the end of Bendis' run on the character, and pretty much at the end of his tenure here at Marvel, as he heads for more creative pastures over in DC, which I'm very curious to read everything he's going to write over there, which we know he's taking on Superman, so I'm pretty excited about that. This basically story is wrapped up in three stories, which kind of break down into four as the story moves along. But basically we have a story that's involved with MJ, Amanda Armstrong, who is Tony's mother, his biological mother, and Riri Williams, which Riri breaks away. We have the Tony Stark story, and then we have the story of Victor Von Doom still being the infamous Iron Man, which I've covered all that if you'd like to check it out. But all this Iron Man stuff is all here under one playlist, all the reviews I've done for it after Secret Wars, if you want to check all that out. Bendis has done a really good job of leaving a lot of stuff for the next creative team to work off of, especially with Tony and Doom. Not so much for Riri. Well, no, I guess that would be a lie once I think back to it. I don't want to spoil anything. But, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to work with, and I'm curious to where it's going to go. If Riri breaks off into one of her own books or another book, which she's been running around the Champions, I wouldn't read it. Even though I kind of enjoyed the character, and Bendis did a really good way of writing her as a teenager, I don't know if whoever takes her over will be able to bring that to the character, and I think that's really important for the character to stick around despite comic books going the route of diversity and political crap at the time, which has really kind of turned me off to comics and why I'm attempting to catch back up on them. But this is really, really good. I'll kind of break into spoilers, but basically the board of directors for Stark International is doing a hostile takeover because Tony's been in a coma since Civil War II. I've covered that and a bunch of other side stories for you if you want to go check those out. And it's all being head by Eric Lynch. And Riri's getting her armor confiscated because it's Stark property. The AI is Stark property. And Tony's body goes missing. And they don't know where it's at. They don't know where it's going to, but eventually he winds up going to a secret bunker with his armor and climbing into some of his very, very classic armor. And he's bald. He has no facial hair. He has no hair, and it's really odd to see him like that. And then we start to see a lot of Bendis created characters for Marvel that they own now that he's leaving really show up in these books. He did a really good job in the Riri stories about doing this, but Hijack shows up from the X-Men. He's part of Scott Summers' team there after AVX, and he's trying to hijack Riri's armor. He's hijacking Stark, like, copters to go after her, and it's pretty cool. She gets chased. You could tell that she is not Tony Stark, because she doesn't know how to deal with the missiles being shot at her. She keeps getting hit. She barely survives. But eventually she winds up going home, where the Iron Maiden is there, and winds up taking the armor from her. And she gets met by Blade later that night, and I love Blade. I wish Marvel would do a lot more with Blade, but I know he hasn't really been that popular since the 90s, and even with the 90s, he was kind of barely holding on there, and by some chance, if I ever get a chance to write for Marvel, Blade is a character I really would like to write. I really like the horror stuff for Marvel. And maybe this is, something they're going to do with him. But he tells her she needs to go back to MIT. And while she is there, she meets a bunch of people that are also looking for Tony, one of them being Tony's brother, Arno, and they're looking for Tony. We'll come to find out that Blade is working for Leonardo da Vinci from the S.H.I.E.L.D. story from about within the last 8 years, where he started S.H.I.E.L.D. and he actually repelled an attack from Galactus. And maybe I should go back and read those, because those are really good, and do some reviews on them. But anyways, with S.H.I.E.L.D. fall, he's up to something new. And he wants Riri and I can't think of the other chick's name right now because it wasn't that important to me at the moment. And even though it's going to kind of drive me crazy. Tony Ho, Madison Jeffries, Arno Stark. There we go. Yeah. And with Tony Ho and Riri's help, Da Vinci is really going to do something. But anyways, they all wind up getting to some armor and going to track Tony for themselves. Back at Stark, we have MJ and Amanda Armstrong dealing with the hostile takeover. It's kind of funny. Amanda Armstrong was a rock star. And she brings this guitar, apparently she's hit people with, to hit Eric Lynch with. And it's kind of awesome. It's it's something you wouldn't expect. It shows you that Tony is not his mother's son at all. But that kind of work gets interesting because we find out that she was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Tony's father worked for Hydra. And he is actually looking for Tony too because he's wanting him to become part of Hydra. And she had told Tony when he had contacted her after he had rebooted his system that he wanted to know more about his dad, and she lies to him. So anyways, Tony has rebooted his system, his biological system, after the attack from Captain Marvel, also known as Carol Danvers. She's always Miss Marvel to me. And he has rebooted his system with all this genetic engineering and tampering he's done with his body. And it's completely rebooted his system. And he says it's a one-shot thing. He's very surprised that it's worked. And he's very obsessed with knowing about his dad and why he was adopted and all this stuff. But he's got one issue that he's questioning now that he's alive because of this, and it's the death of Rhodey. You know, if he would have done this to Rhodey, would Rhodey have been alive and not died at the hand of Thanos at the beginning of Civil War II? So, in a very dark fashion, he goes and digs up Rhodey's body. And he's questioning if it's what's right morally, and other people are questioning morally. But he does it anyways, and it brings Rhodey back to life. And I'm not sure if I'm big on this, because Rhodey died a soldier's death. I think he was proud of the way he had died, and there's a lot of that mixed in here with the book. And it kind of makes Tony, in a sense, like Dr. Frankenstein, because he has resurrected the dead through technology, and it's kind of scary in a sense. And I'm wondering if we'll learn more about how he had manipulated his body with this engineering more in the future, and how it kept him alive. Even though he said it was a one-shot deal, I would like to see it, because Rhodey has been dead for quite some time now after Civil War too, and he still managed to bring him back alive with it. So it's all kinds of crazy. But anyways, the Tony AI knows where Stark is, and during this time, and it's kind of funny because in a very Tony Stark fashion, everybody wonders why he never spoke up, and basically he never did because no one asked. So it's kind of funny. But, anyways, Tony shows back up as Jude, his father, this agent of Hydra, shows up with a bunch of Hydra goons, and then Tony shows up with the War Machine. We have this Iron Brigade, which is Riri, Tony Ho, and Madison, and Arno, and it ends up in this great big battle, and it's pretty cool. Da Vinci's there in Iron Man armor, which kind of looks like a knight, which is really, really cool. And the one thing I don't get about this, and which he kind of brings it up, is Tony's AI for Riri, which oddly enough kind of reminds me of Dr. Manhattan, because it's got this blue glow to it. And I wonder if Tony made it like that because Dr. Manhattan is basically the most powerful being in the Watchmen universe, possibly one of the most powerful beings of all of DC, and he kind of did that on purpose, maybe, due to his ego, and I can see that, but at least he bothered to put clothes on him, so that's all I can think of every time I've seen this AI reading this story, and it never dawned upon me during the Riri Williams stuff. But, anyways, he does get to meet his father and watches him go to prison because he's a Hydra agent. So they wrap all that up really, really nice, and basically Tony is going to get control of his company back. Now, this leaves us with Doom and all the escaped prisoners that Doom had captured during his time of Infamous Iron Man. Check out that 12-part run. I've done it in 2 different parts for reviews. Make sure to like those. But they're trying to bait him, and they think he's gone soft because he's trying to be a hero. And even when they bother to catch him and they think they have him in his armor, and this is all being led by the Red Hood, by the way. Chemistro makes a funny joke. Said that he thought his face was all Deadpool-y because before Secret Wars, Doom's face has always been scarred, and when Reed Richards fixed everything, he left Doom's face intact. We've covered a lot of Secret War stuff here on the Villains Van here on YouTube. There's a whole playlist full of those reviews, plus the main series. You can go check those out. But anyways, there's a lot of jokes made about Doom's face, and I feel that those guys would never make those jokes if Victor Von Doom was Dr. Doom and not this infamous Iron Man here. Those jokes would not be made at all. But anyways, they're going to head to Latveria, and they're going to chase Doom around. They face him off in France, and this is pretty cool, and it's a really neat power review to see here of Doom, as they think they have him, and Hood's got his guns pointed at him, and he can control weaker minds, and he controls Hood to kill his partner so he can escape. And Hood's very, very pissed off about it. So that's really cool for me to see this new power here for Dr. Doom. And he kills a corruptor. But basically, he goes to his grave there, his mother's grave in France. We get to see how much he blames her for who he is and what he's turned into be. And that kind of played a lot into the infamous Iron Man storyline. And he destroys her grave. But he fights the wrecking crew. And they make a joke about Pile Driver always getting knocked out. It's kind of funny because anytime there's a fight with the Wrecking Crew, Pile Driver always does seem to get knocked out at first. And it's kind of funny because through this Iron Man run, Bendis has really referenced some stuff in the past between characters. And I thought that was really cool. But anyways, once he gets jumped, he teleports out to see Amara, who he sees is pregnant, which we've learned. And he tells her that he is sorry, but he is the father of the baby. And she's very shocked. But after being beat up, she takes care of him, and he has to leave, and he promises that the baby will be taken care of. And she doesn't want it. But right after he leaves, she's like, great, thanks for making me fall in love with you, Victor. So I'm curious to how that is going to play out. So the Hood goes to Eric Lynch because he's figured out that if Doom is parading around as Iron Man, something's wrong. And so he's going to get Lynch to sign over all of Stark's stuff once the board takes over to him. And then him and the rest of the criminals are going to fund their criminal empire through Stark Industries. And if it's doomed, they don't care because they're going to make a lot of money off of it. And this kind of leads up to everybody else showing up to help with Doom. That it helped arrest June and the rest of Hydra. And all these Doom bots show up with the Iron Man to help Doom with all this. And this ends up to a fight with Hood and Dormammu. Hood as Dormammu, I should say. And they have this fight up in the air, and he grabs Doom by the face, and you're not sure if he has scarred Doom's face once again. They kind of leave that a mystery. But we do see Doom go back to Latveria, back to his roots, and we do see some mystical energy surrounding Doomistad. So you're not sure what's going to happen, but it looks like Doom's going to return back to Doctor Doom. But if he's going to be evil, we're not sure. but he has a child on the way, so surely he's out to make the world a better place. He's going to be in the new Marvel, what is it, 2-for-1s that are coming out, where him and Ben and Reed are searching, Thing are searching for Reed and Sue, which I'm pretty excited to read those. So all this is really good. Like I said, Bendis leaves a lot of open endings for everybody. We have Tony back in power with Rhodey alive, but yet we still don't know how this rebooting of the human system works. We have Riri and Tony Ho joining Da Vinci and Blade into maybe some type of new organization like S.H.I.E.L.D., since S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone. And then we get something interesting, and this happens in 598 towards the end. Wolverine shows up, and he's looking for Tony, and he says, "I'll see you soon." Really interesting. He's been dead for a good 3 years, maybe at this time, comic book wise. There's no telling how long in his story, but he was encased in adamantium at the end of Death of Wolverine, and now here he is in his trademark, Crocodile Dundee hat, wife beater, and blue jeans and boots. So I'm very, very curious to what's happening there. Also, we see Eva Bell, and she's running through time, and once again, another Bendis character, and she is going to meet the Sorcerer Supreme. And we know that the last time she'd met Sorcerer Supreme, I can recall, it was Magic, which was really cool in the year 2099, I think is where that was taking place at. But anyways, Wong that is there is Nightcrawler, and he is trying to stop her from entering, and he's not aware of who she is. Well, anyways, he lets her go, and she meets the Sorcerer Supreme, and he says, "I've not heard that name in a long time," and it's Tony Stark, who we have seen in the Doom series as Sorcerer Supreme, and he looks really cool. He's got his arc reactor in his chest. He's got these batteries floating around him, almost like charging him up with power. And she is very, very upset because she can't get back to her family. So another loose end Bendis has left for the next creative team to tackle. So lots of cool stuff here going on. I'm very excited to continue on with this Tony Stark Iron Man title. I hate that they're naming it something else. Why can't it just be Invincible Iron Man? The Wolverine stuff is very, very intriguing. We know Legacy's coming around the corner. And I'm really excited to read that. There's a picture floating around. Major spoilers if you want to stop. Skip about 5 seconds. Wolverine has an Infinity Gem. So, I'm very curious how that's going to work out here. The Doom stuff is what I am most excited about. I'm a huge Doom fan. I'm really ready to read this 2-in-1 with him and Ben and Johnny to see where that goes. Because I'm not sure what other book Doom would ever show up in. I can't see him getting another one of these infamous Iron Man titles now that Tony's back. I'm wondering how Tony's going to react to him parading around as an Iron Man during all this. So, lots of stuff to look forward to in the future. But, I'm JVD for the Villains Man. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Hopefully you subscribed here to YouTube. If you like this video, leave me a comment. Check the rest of my Iron Man reviews out here in this playlist that you're probably checking them out right now. Keep reading, guys.